Ladies and gentlemen, good day to all. Once again, you are welcome here on the Tribune of Awakening Consciousness. This is the headline of international news. Yes, tensions are truly high between France and Russia as Emmanuel Macron has provoked Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has therefore decided to respond, but sharply, severely, and historically to the recent remarks made by the French President Emmanuel Macron. So, as you may know, during a recent address to the French nation, I believe it was on March 4th, 2025, on French television, on the eve of that famous meeting of the 27 in Brussels, Emmanuel Macron had spoken. He had adopted a tone of unusual gravity concerning Franco-Russian relations. He spoke about Russia in a way he had never spoken about Russia before. The French president warned of the tangible presence of a Russian threat already affecting the entire Europe. And in his speech, he accused Moscow of deliberately turning the Ukrainian conflict into a global conflict. We all followed along. He gave a speech where he aimed to motivate all of Europe to stand up against Russia. In this speech, he demonstrated clearly that Russia was a danger and that Russia was already at the level of all European borders. Thus, he denounced Russian provocations in the air, at sea, in space. And behind our screens, even Russia's cyber presence. So, in relation to all this, Macron was also concerned about the intensification of Russia's military capabilities. Why is Russia only intensifying its military capabilities? Russia is acquiring such weapons. Russia is equipping itself with such weapons. So he went into a lot of detail until he said, what is Russia's intention after Ukraine? Russia will go beyond Ukraine to target other European states. So here is what Emmanuel Macron had to say. The boss of the Kremlin, the leader, the powerful leader of the Kremlin, made sure to respond calmly, in his natural way of speaking with his smile, but he gave a response, which is playing on President Macron's conscience, which is playing on the conscience of the French people. So it was time for a meeting with the employees and wards of the foundation, defender of the fatherland of Moscow. So he was there with the mothers whose children remained on the side of Ukraine, have gone to eternal rest. It was during this meeting. So Vladimir Putin did not delay in reacting to Emmanuel Macron's remarks. What did he say specifically? That's what we are going to see in this video conference. And that's why I ask you to share it as much as possible. Share the video conference, give it lots of likes. And above all, leave lots of comments. It gives strength to the video. It gives visibility. Because, you know, the videos we make here, they don't want us to have enough visibility. So, create lots of interactions. So, what did Putin say? Putin. In response to Macron, he launched a retort filled with historical references. He sent Macron back into history. Yes, Macron and France, he sent them back into their history. Since, when Macron speaks like that, he would like to say, instead of Russia coming to attack us, since Russia is already at our borders, let's attack Russia. That's what it means otherwise. What Vladimir Putin do? Vladimir Putin, he says this. He says some still want to return to the time of Napoleon. But we're not at the time of Napoleon. Do you remember what happened to those who don't know history? The story. Follow the video until the end. He says some want to go back to the time of Napoleon. He was a French leader. He says, forgetting how it ended. Yes. It's a sad story. In the history of France, we will be redundant. It was a sad end for so-called France, which is great, which has gone to cling to the idea that he was going to invade Russia. But the way it ended, God the Almighty alone knows. Yes, the shame and all that. So here's what he declared. He didn't go into too much detail. He stopped there. Vladimir Putin doesn't talk much. So this reference to military history, Franco-Russian, seems to constitute a warning. In the eyes of many observers, it's a warning to France. It's a warning to France, but a barely veiled warning. In response to remarks deemed aggressive by Moscow. Thus, Vladimir Putin indirectly compared current Western ambitions to those of the French emperor, whose invasion ultimately ended in a major military disaster. Putin compares their current intention with what happened. That French emperor who came to invade Russia, and even his descendants, when you tell them go to Russia, they will refuse. So, Putin reminded them of the past. Then, Putin did not go very far. He stopped there, because the more you talk too much, the less interesting it becomes. So Putin, during the meeting, he focused on something else. He quickly moved on to another topic. He said this. He stated that Russia defends its vision of a lasting peace. So, beyond this historical jab, the Russian president laid out his conception and the necessary conditions for resolving the conflict in Ukraine. That's what interests him. How to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. He says this. He says, we must choose for ourselves a version of peace that would suit us and ensure calm for our country. For a long-term historical perspective, that is to say, Putin knows he is not immortal. He can leave at any moment, but he would like to give peace to Russia. A historical peace that will extend over time and space, so that after him, there will be no problem. That's his concern, a lasting peace. And so, in the process, there is a woman who lost her son in Ukraine during the special military operation. So this woman, since her child went there because of that, this woman does not want any concessions at all. Not a single territory to Ukraine. During the negotiations, this woman asked Vladimir Putin the question. And there, Vladimir Putin was very clear, shared the video conference with me. He said, it's out of the question. We will not give up, even a fraction of a centimeter. We will not concede. So it's a clear response to Emmanuel Macron. We will have the negotiations. We will have the peace we want, lasting peace. And we will continue to keep our lands, and you can do nothing about it. If you try, we will return to the Napoleonic era. Moreover, currently, we are more armed than in the Napoleonic era. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the historic response that Vladimir Putin has just given to Emmanuel Macron. We will see Macron's reply. In any case, it's very heated in the context of global geopolitics. So thank you all for sharing the video conference as much as possible. I will get back to you shortly with more news. That was the voice of your one and only samurai.